Hi y'all, it's your Star Goddess. I'm back. Okay, so let's talk about magic. Let's talk about magic. Okay, so sometimes people will point the finger and label you and say, oh, you're bad, you practice magic. Like if they just find out you're a witch. But I was out the other day eating at this Vietnamese restaurant. And as soon as you walk in, there's a display to their deity. There's incense going, there's offerings, there's fruit, there's money as offerings. There is an altar as soon as you walk into the door. Okay. Then you go in further. There's statues made out of certain types of stones and crystals. There's water. So you have all the elements: earth, air, fire, water on the altar. And you go in and you eat. No one thinks anything of it. Oh, they're not like judging these people for practicing magic and having an altar right when they walk in, but they will judge and say that you're going to hell, and that you're evil, and that you're a witch if you do the exact same thing to your deity or spirits you work with or your ancestors. Now all of a sudden you're evil. But the Asian culture, oh, that's just their culture, oh, that's just their religion, oh, that's just why? Because they incorporated their ancestors and their deities and their magic into their religion, because no one came and forced any type of religion on them. So they kept their own original religion. Okay, so if people would have never invaded certain lands and forced religions on other people, we would have that same type of magic and symbolism and offerings and altars in most religions, because it wouldn't have been taken away or judged. So we have to think about that. Now there's this one Asian restaurant, there's this one Vietnamese restaurant that I go to, and instead of giving out like mints or toothpicks, they give you incense. Yes, they give you incense to go burn at your house, or tea. They give you tea. So that's why I don't see why people that practice certain things have to hide it. I went to this one Chinese restaurant and they had a spirit house. They had this house. It looked like a dollhouse. My kids were trying to go play with it, and I knew what it was because I'm educated in different cultures and different customs. So I knew this was one of their spirit houses, because they do this a lot in certain countries. They have this outside of their home to like distract it's kind of like a gargoyle is on a building. They have this outside of their homes to distract the evil spirits from coming into their actual home, and that they will just go into this house, or it will give their spirits a house as well, the guardian spirits. So my daughters were trying to go play with this spirit house, and I told them, no, that's not a doll house, that's a spirit house. It's disrespectful if you go and play with it. So I had to educate my daughters as well to not do that because respect that. And so if you have a spirit house, if you build a spirit house and say, oh, these are for my spirits, now all of a sudden you're into voodoo, now you're into hoodoo, now you're conjuring stuff, now you're evil, now you're working with demons, right? So y'all have to like kind of laugh at yourself sometimes when you hear other people put you down, but then they'll go eat they'll go eat at a Chinese restaurant and think nothing of it, or they'll go somewhere and you see a bunch of fruit stacked up next to a statue with incense going and stuff like that, and they'll just be like, oh, okay, interesting. They're not gonna judge that, but it's the exact same thing that witches do. We're just not confined to a certain way of thinking because someone said it was wrong. We like to ask questions, so we're not gonna just take everything at face value. That's one thing that practitioners of magic do. We are always asking questions. We're always learning. A full cup cannot have more information poured into it if it's full. So this is why, like we always say, I'm an empty vessel. I can learn. I'm asking questions. I'm growing. If your cup is full and you don't have any room to learn anything else or to hear anybody else's opinion, and you're just full, then you can't really understand what that empty cup or the empty vessel is going to understand, because they don't already have a preconceived notion of how everything is supposed to be. There's always a room for improvement, always room for more knowledge and learning. And if you're stuck at a certain level because you choose not to open your mind even wider than it already is open, then that's going to be a stagnant point in your life. A lot of people get stuck sometimes when they start learning about magic, or when they become conscious and they see the world a whole different way. Sometimes they get stuck. They get stuck in like the fear level. They get stuck in the conspiracy levels. They get stuck at dark or light magic. They get stuck at certain things, and they won't move past it. They're just stuck there. And I'm sorry, there's like some dust. It takes a person to either snatch them out of it, to slap them out of it, to wake them up even further into a higher consciousness or a different consciousness. It doesn't have to be higher or lower, it's just another level of it. Because sometimes, we're not ready to move up or to a different part of consciousness, and we're stuck there for a reason, because we're supposed to learn something while we're stuck in the mud, as I call it. So while we're stuck there, we ask ourselves questions. Until we want to improve ourselves, we're going to stay stuck. Until we decide to open our mind and say, hey, what else is there? I'm tired of, going over this again and again. And, other people are saying this now, and they're looking at me like I'm not really enlightened anymore because I keep saying the same thing over. So maybe there is more. You have to want to go further. You have to want to further climb that ladder, So a lot of people are at certain levels, so they're not always going to understand what you're talking about. They're not always going to agree with what you're talking about until they get on a similar level as you. So you can't really bash a bunch of people for saying, oh, well, I don't understand that. Oh, that seems wrong. But when you're on a certain level of consciousness and you just woke up or you just got into magic, you can't be argumentative with people who have been doing this for years, decades, half of a century. You can't go at it with them because they know more than you. I mean, you might be ambitious, you might be angry because you just found out the truth about things, and you might be very passionate about your learning process, but you can't just bash other people's knowledge because you haven't gotten there yet. Not everything you do is going to be pleasing to people, but learn how to control that. Learn how to control it, because if you offend the wrong people sometimes, you could be missing out on an opportunity for them to teach you things. A lot of teachers and people that practice, they don't really like to teach people because they're always saying, oh, well, I heard this, or well, I heard that, well, you heard that, but why are you coming to me? So it's best to just listen and take notes and then make of it what you will. You don't have to say, well, I heard this and this way, this person does it that way. It's like, then do it the way that you feel right. But you are learning different ways to do things, and that's always a positive. Okay, so y'all keep that in mind and try not to go off at the mouth too much, because I have had people come to my videos and go all crazy on the comments, and then 6 months later they come back and say, oh my God, I was such a fool, look what I wrote, I was crazy, I didn't know any better, forgive me. I'm like, I already know how people are. It's okay. I know it's a learning process. I don't take it personally, because if I did I would be a victim of it too, because I used to do the same thing years ago. I'd be like, oh no, that's not right. And now I'm like, okay, I understand now. You're passionate, you're angry about certain things, you think you know everything. When you get a little bit of knowledge, you just go all off and spew it out. And sometimes that changes. Like when you change, your application of the knowledge changes. Like sometimes evil is good, and sometimes good is evil, and sometimes it doesn't even matter if it's good or evil. It's just how you use it. So you kind of get on levels of understanding, and you can have a different perspective on things. And a wider view, a bird's eye view of things, rather than just your tiny perspective at that moment in time. So you just have to be patient with yourself, be patient with other people. Try not to spew out at the mouth too much about how you're right and someone else is wrong. Just say, well, let's just agree to disagree for now. Okay? There's no use in arguing back and forth. If y'all are both into magic, there's no use. Okay? Just say, okay, well, you know, I have not experienced that understanding yet, or I don't think I'll have experienced that notion yet, but you know, there's always room to grow. There's always room to explore. You don't have to call it growth. You can just call it exploration. Well, I haven't explored that side of my spirituality yet, you know, because once you have explored your spirituality and you're tired of this side and you've been there, done this, now you're going to start wondering and getting curious about other things that you might have bashed in the past. And if you've bashed them so much, you're going to be reluctant to even step over there and check it out and see what you're missing and see what knowledge that you haven't gained. You're going to be like, well, I was just adamant about being against that. I'm not even going to touch it because I made a fool of myself online, and if I go backwards, they're going to laugh at me. No, that's why you don't bash people. You say, well, I haven't experienced that level yet, or I haven't experienced that perspective yet. Because one day it's going to come and you're going to be like, oh my God, that looks interesting. I want to go check it out. And, you know, if you're adamant against it, you know, you're going to fight yourself for even exploring it, and you're not going to be comfortable in it. You're not going to be able to fully experience it as you should have, because you were so against something in your past that, you know, now it's mental. Now it's in your subconscious mind. You can't get rid of it. Just like religion was forced and beat into people. Well, you can force and beat into yourself a belief as well about certain magics. So y'all keep that clear and don't do that to yourselves, okay? I will see y'all later. Thumbs up if y'all like this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. I'll see y'all later. Bye.